So throughout this video you're going to hear that noise. Sorry if it gets annoying, but it is what it is. It's my little stool that I was standing on, and for some reason that step there just squeaks. Creak, creak. MudRFunR here. Today we're working on an 05 GMC Sierra, and it's got a 5.3 liter V8, and I'm going to change the water pump. So what you're going to be needing for this job is a drain pan, new water pump of course. You'll need something with 15mm on it. I'm using a breaker bar, 10mm for the water pump bolts, pliers of some sort for the hose clamps, and you'll need a torque wrench. I'm using a small 3/8 one with inch pounds on it. I'm going to be using my air tool here to get the bolts out and make it a little quicker. So I'm not going to be flushing my cooling system on this one. It's an old truck and I'm going to take my chances on it, but this is the warning that comes on the water pump box right there. So I'm under the truck, and right there is the lower rad hose, and there is no drain plug, so I'm going to have to get that hose off to drain the rad. And that clamp right there, it has a 5/16 head on it. So while that antifreeze is draining down there, I'm going to start taking the top of this apart. So I'm going to start by removing the air intake hose. There it is. And then the next thing, I'll get the belt off. And this is a 15mm head on this. It's out. And probably just tuck that off to the side. The tensioner pulley is going to have to come off and go on to the new one anyway. So while it's still draining, I'm going to take this off right here. So there's 3 15mm bolts right here to hold your tensioner pulley on. I'll get them the rest of the way with this. It's still dripping from the rad, so I've added a second drain pan underneath here now. So I'm going to take these two lines off that go to the heater core. Get those clamps off, and now with the second pan under there, should be able to catch most of the fluid. You probably can't see it here, but right beside it is the big lower rad hose. I'm going to remove that right away too. So I'm just using a big pry bar here and cracking these hoses loose. Just kind of twisting it. Try not to rip the rubber. Already got this one cracked loose. coolant, of course. There, that one cracked loose. And just the upper one left. Hopefully this clamp comes off better than the lower radical clamp did. I fought with that one for quite a while, and that's exactly why these stupid clamps are not going back on there. I don't have a clamp tool for this. They are a pain. There we go. Pull that down off of there. Crack it loose here. There we go. Now there's a little clip here that holds this in. Just going to pull it out from here. There we go. And might as well move this one. Clear the path. Now we can start taking the water pump off. So there's 3 10mm bolts on this side over here. And there's another 3 on this side that you can't see on the camera. Got them all cracked loose. Trying to get them out the rest of the way with the air ratchet here. Okay, all the bolts are out except for one. I've got it in there partially still. And it should come right out. There we go. Some more fluid. So just make sure that all of the old gasket is off of the engine first before putting anything back on. This is what I found, chunks of gasket like that on the block. Not sure how good of a view you're going to get here. This is as high as my tripod will go. And I'm just using a little bit of steel wool here to clean off anything that was left over from the old gasket. I already used a scraper and got all the oil that was around these edges. Yeah, this thing's got some pretty good leaks. Got 309,000 kilometers on it. So right now I got to stop doing the water pump. Not really sure if you can see how rusty this line down here is, but this has got to get replaced, and since I got lots of room in between here, I'm going to start on that right now. And the line replacement is going to be on a separate video, and I'll put a link right up there for you. So I've got the grill out right now because I was doing this transmission line right here, and gives myself a little step to work on over here. So your water pump might not come with a new thermostat. This one has the whole thermostat housing and a new thermostat. And if yours doesn't have this, you're going to need that gasket. I don't know why they gave me a gasket because they already have it here. And you'll need a gasket or a rubber O-ring for in here. These 2 bolts are torqued to 11 foot-pounds or 132 inch-pounds. These here gaskets, they have the rubbers on the sides here, so you don't need any gasket sealer. But I've seen other ones, kits, where you don't have that rubber on there and you actually have to use gasket sealer. Not with these. So you really don't need to do this, but I'm putting a little bit of some anti-seize on all of the water pump bolts. Okay, so we got all 6 bolts through here. One of the gaskets is already in place on there. And I'm just going to put this one on too. Okay, so let's see if those gaskets will stay in place. Nope. Get a couple of bolts started on this side. A couple on the other side. Just to make sure the gaskets stay where they belong. So I'm just going to tighten all these up just until they touch here, until they're a little bit snug. So there is a sequence to these bolts, and you have to do this in 2 segments. First time around, you want it at 11 foot-pounds or 132 inch-pounds. And you start with this center left one, then you go to the center right and the lower left and the top left and the top right and the bottom right. Okay, in the second round you're going to do this at 22 foot-pounds or 264 inch-pounds in the same sequence. And that part's good to go. Okay, so for the tensioner, I've got anti-seize on those bolts as well. And there's 2 long bolts and 1 short one over here on the bottom. I don't know the torque on these ones, so just keep in mind you're tightening into aluminum here, so don't overdo it. So first off, I'm going to put the 2 heater hoses back on. So right now this would be a good time to check your rad hoses and make sure that they're in good shape. I really don't like these kind of clamps, so I'm replacing it with one of these screw clamps. And I'm just lining up the bottom of the hose right there just to make sure that it's turned in the right direction from up here. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten up this clamp and then get underneath and tighten up the other one on the rad. I'll put the hose back on all the way and then tighten it. Okay. Lower rad hose is tight. Okay, so I'm replacing that other clamp at this end as well. There we go. And just gotta push this little clip back in over here, back into place. And this, hook that back in. and replace the belt. Now at this time, it's a good idea to inspect all your belts and your pulleys and make sure that everything is in good working order. Make sure your bearings are good on your alternator and your pulleys. This one sounds a little dry, and it's an easy one to replace, so for now we're going to put this back on, but that one's going to have to get replaced yet. Just don't have one today. Don't have that piece put on yet, but this is where you're going to find your belt routing diagram right there, and this is the one that we're using. Okay, so rerouting the belt. So I got my diagram handy, right? You can't see it here, but it's here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to route this up over top of the water pump, and then this part is going to go around the crank pulley, that, and then this one comes up here, and then around the power steering pump. I have to pull the tensioner this way. Hook this in. And I'm going to try and slip that underneath. There we go. Now, before you let go, make sure that all your splines are in the proper place in the pulleys and everything is lined up, and you're done with the belt. And then next, the hose, that back on. So the hose is back in place, and just tightening up these two clamps. And just gotta fill up the reservoir again. So to finish off this job, I had used a nice clean drain pan, so this fluid was not that old, and I'm just going to pour it back in here again. Starting to get full, and I'm not going all the way to the bottom of this drain pan. I'm sure there's sludge in the bottom and whatever, so I'm just leaving a little bit in there, just so that I don't get any dirt and stuff in there. I probably should have used a filter, but I didn't. And I'm going to start it up with the cap off right now. So I'm going to start it up now and let the reservoir drop down and let some of the air bubbles out of the system. Alright, the heat should be on full, and you should be able to feel some heat coming out of the vents. Now they recommend that you rev the engine at about 2500 RPM for about 30 seconds. Make sure that the water is circulating. And just keep an eye on your coolant temperature. After 30 seconds of revving it at 2500, it's gone down. I need to fill it back up. So I've already got this stuff mixed 50-50. Let's get some more. take quite a bit, and then after the thermostat opens up, which should have done by now, and the full cone is about halfway up this overflow canister. After I filled it, I revved it up again, and it's still on the full mark where it's supposed to be. So we should be good to go. Thank you for watching. Hope you hit the like button, and make sure you subscribe if you like the video. So right now I'm going to take it for a little drive, and when I get back I'll check the coolant again and make sure that there aren't any leaks.